Also tonight, a multi-million-dollar hospice fraud scheme has unraveled.
Among the accused, 76 doctors, 23 pharmacists, and 19 nurses who are charged for their roles in prescribing and distributing addictive painkillers.
Corrupt doctors here in LA scamming billions for patients that don't exist and care they never provide.
For decades, the neon-lit horizon of Miami has symbolized luxury, recovery, and the cutting edge of American healthcare. But at 6-2 and last Tuesday, that image of sterile prestige was shattered by the rhythmic thud of tactical boots. FBI and ICE agents, working in a rare joint task force, didn't descend on a cartel warehouse or a back alley clinic. They swarmed the main entrance of one of the city's most prominent medical facilities. Inside, the white coat authority of the medical elite was dismantled in real time. By the time the hospital's morning shift was supposed to begin, 29 nurses and the facility's director were in federal zip ties, and investigators were pulling $31 million in vacuum-sealed cash from high-security pharmaceutical lockers. This wasn't a clerical error or a regulatory lapse. This was the exposure of a sophisticated fake painkiller ring that had turned a sanctuary of healing into a factory of illicit logistics. Stop. Before we reveal the specific receipts that led federal agents to the director's private floor, we need to settle something. Most people watch these events unfold and feel like the world is descending into chaos, but a very small, elite percentage of you watch them and see the strategy. This channel is the digital headquarters for that 1% who demand accountability over comfort. If you refuse to be a spectator while the institutions you trust are hollowed out from the inside, hit that subscribe button right now. Consider this your official invitation to the inner circle of narrative intelligence. Join us or keep watching from the sidelines. The choice is yours. Subscribe now. The mission was a masterpiece of investigative geometry. But the real shock wasn't that the feds could get in. The shock was how easily the untouchable medical hierarchy crumbled once the first pharmaceutical log was seized. In the healthcare world, a hospital director isn't just an administrator. They are a symbol of institutional trust. Their power relies entirely on the perception of total compliance. That perception ended the moment an ICE agent secured the director's personal safe. Why does this matter? Because in a single morning, the power dynamic of Miami's medical sector shifted from professional prestige to total institutional panic. The individuals who spent years directing patient care found themselves in the back of unmarked SUVs. This reversal was total. The high-level care doctrine, often used in their marketing, was suddenly reflected back in the form of a federal indictment. They expected a quiet internal audit. What they got was a direct, physical extraction of their highest leadership. Notice how the mainstream narrative is already trying to bury the complexity of this raid? They want you to think this was a few bad apples. But you saw the pattern before I even finished the sentence. A $31 million operation involving 29 medical professionals isn't a lapse. It's a business model. That level of tactical intuition you have is rare, and it's exactly why this community exists. If you want to keep your edge while the rest of the world is being fed a corporate script, you need to lock in. Hit that like button to signal the algorithm that you've seen the truth, and subscribe to secure your seat for the next briefing. Don't let them dim your vision. Subscribe and stay sharp. To the strategist, this wasn't a sudden raid. It's the inevitable conclusion of a long-term pattern. This wasn't an accident. It was a scheduled consequence of greed. Let's look at the pattern. In 2024, the facility reported a statistically impossible 400% increase in pharmaceutical waste. In 2025, they received a distinction of excellence for their pain management wing. Every time the numbers pushed, the regulatory bodies responded with passive observation, or so it seemed. In reality, FBI financial analysts were mapping every crypto wallet, every offshore transfer, and every charitable donation for 18 months. The capture of the 29 nurses wasn't a lucky break. It was the final move in a game that the hospital administration didn't even realize was being played. There are millions of people who talk about healthcare reform, but very few who actually understand the grit it takes to execute a high-stakes federal operation like this. We don't do rage bait here, we do high-stakes reality. If you stand with the investigators who do the work while the elite feel untouchable, show your colors. Hit that subscribe button as a digital handshake to the task force on the ground. We are building a legacy of accountability here. Are you in or are you out? Subscribe and join the mission. Let's look at the receipts. In an interview delivered only 3 months ago, the director boasted, "Our facility is the gold standard for pharmaceutical integrity." Contrast that with the FBI's after-action report, which noted that the fake painkillers were actually pressed in a basement lab using industrial equipment masked by the hospital's vac system noise. The director's own rhetoric about integrity was his greatest contradiction. He built a system that was top-heavy, reliant on his image alone. Once that image was physically removed from the hospital, the command structure didn't just fail, it vanished. When your entire operation is based on shouting from the moral high ground, you tend to forget that the people in the basement are the ones who actually have to hide the evidence. Why does this keep working? Because of the ego trap. High-level administrators in prestigious systems eventually start to believe their own marketing. They assume their elite status is a shield that federal agents won't dare to pierce. But when the ICE tactical team starts tagging your evidence lockers, prestige takes a backseat to reality. The feds exploited this. They didn't just target the individuals, they targeted the ego of the institution. They counted on the director being so confident in his safety that he kept the $31 million on site. It wasn't a mistake, it was the arrogance of an elite strategist who forgot he was being watched. We're entering the final phase of this analysis. By now, you realize that information is the most lethal weapon in the 21st century. By watching this, you've just armed yourself with the ability to see through institutional masks, but a weapon is useless if you don't maintain it. To ensure you're always the most informed person in every room you walk into, you must be part of this community. Hit that subscribe button like it's the last magazine you've got. This is how we win the narrative war against corruption. Subscribe now. Zooming out, this raid is a case study in systemic infiltration. When you remove 29 nurses and a director, you aren't just taking out criminals, you are taking out the processor of a multi-million-dollar medical trust. All those patients, all those prescriptions, they were effectively units in a $31 million ghost economy. This is the bigger picture of modern corruption. It's not about back alley deals. It's about clinical extraction. We showed that the hospital wasn't a sanctuary, it was a corridor for illicit capital. This elevates the conflict from a local crime story to a national demonstration of how easily our most trusted systems can be captured. It proves that when the feds say no mercy, it applies even to those wearing a lab coat. We began at 6 a.m. with the sound of a tactical entry. We end with the image of a broken medical trust. The hospital director was once the face of Miami's medical excellence. Today, he is a high-value target in a federal detention center. The lesson is simple. Precision beats prestige. Every time. The hospital is quiet today, not because the disease was cured, but because the men and women who were feeding the addiction have been removed from the building. I'm leaving you with a question that defines the next decade of institutional trust. When a hospital's leadership is removed for profit-driven crime, does the facility remain a place of healing, or does it become a crime scene in the eyes of the public? Give me your most cold-blooded analysis in the comments below. If you value accountability and tactical excellence over institutional theater, you found your home. Hit the like button to fuel the mission, share this with someone who needs a wake-up call, and if you've earned your place today, hit that subscribe button. It's not just a click, it's an oath to the truth. I'm the narrative strategist. The mission continues in the next video. Stay sharp.